Welcome to Your Next Chapter, where we feature conversations with leading audio creators and industry experts shaping the future of podcasting. I'm Jeremiah Tittle. People call me JT. I'm the CEO and founder of Next Chapter Podcasts and your host for insightful conversations that delve into the creative processes, challenges, innovations, driving the world of audio storytelling today. Our guest for this episode is Bernard Sire. A new audio friend of mine. I met Bernard at the podcast show in London. He hosts a podcast called Inspirations. He's a DJ, a working DJ, and we bonded over our shared careers, the combination of music and podcasting. Bernard, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeremiah. Appreciate you inviting me on and happy to be here.
So we met in London at the podcast show. I'm a big fan of this event. I've gone now 2 years in a row. Before we get into your experiences there at the podcast show, which I am curious about, I wanted to ask you about how you made your way to London. Where are you from and how'd you get there?
Well, born in London, I grew up in the U.S., South Florida, mainly in Miami, and came back here, been here for a couple of years, really for family related. And yeah, just such a beautiful place and a lot going on. So I decided to stick around for a bit.
That's cool. So we both also share this Miami connection. I was there just for a couple of years. I didn't spend my formative years necessarily there, but it's a music capital. While I was working and living there, it's kind of the business capital, maybe the international hub of Latin America. A lot of people say. So I'm just curious how that impacted your, let's say, musical life, media life. What did you take from Miami that you now bring to London?
Like anywhere you go, it kind of sticks with you. I mean, there's been so many, Miami's changed a lot. It's grown a lot, especially most recent times, but even the last 15, 20 years. And it's a really interesting mix. It's you have so many different cultures there, obviously the Latin culture, but outside of that too, it kind of feels a little bit different than any other place you'll go in the U.S. And yeah, it's got such a great flavor and so many different blends. Obviously, you've got the mix from the Caribbean being so close there too, and such a tropical feel. But it's a special place.
I feel like I learned so much about Latin culture, but you're right. There is more than that, and so much great food. I know this is not a food podcast, but now that I've been spending a lot more time in London, it is such an international city. My first stop, no matter when I land, is to get curry. I am obsessed. There is such great food in London, any kind you could even think of. I went to Borough Market. I saw Iraqi food, and I thought, I've never even thought about an Iraqi food truck, restaurant, whatever in the U.S. a city I've ever lived in. So it's such an international hub. So your return to the UK and London, were you already DJing before coming to London, or was that a more recent development?
No, I've been DJing before. I mean, grew up in the US, started DJing like late teens. So yeah, it's been, I don't want to count the years now, but I've been DJing for a while before coming to London for sure.
So let's zoom in maybe on the podcast show, and I want to get to Inspirations and spend more time talking to you about it. It's a really cool show that you host. But the podcast show London, what was your takeaway from the experience? Did it live up to your expectations?
I didn't really have many expectations going in. I've been there maybe once or twice before, and I'm not directly in the industry, being that I'm a freelancer per se. I just do the podcast as kind of a side thing. So I just really walked around, and the panels always seem to be super interesting. Forget the main panel that I got to see. I guess it's just, I don't know the name of it, so I'm not going to try and recall it. But you can just walk around and meet people from different places and kind of just get a feel for it. There's obviously a lot of technology going on there too. You can see what's at the forefront. You've got all the big names. And then get to meet people such as yourself out of the blue. I saw Next Chapter. I said, I know that name. I got to walk over and say hello. So it's nice to meet you and the crew there for sure.
It was very kind of you. I mean, I obviously it's authentic, but the connection was the show Public Space, hosted by Anthony Valadez. Um, and he and I worked together at TuneIn before I started this company, Next Chapter. He was one of the first podcasts that we co-produced. Or was Anthony having hosted the Morning Becomes Eclectic for 2 years for KCRW, one of the biggest public radio stations on the West Coast. He rose to fame maybe just after we did this podcast, and he wasn't allowed to do it anymore. But yeah, it's one of those podcasts that it was definitely more of a passion project, but near and dear to my heart with DJ Shadow and some other big name guests who've gone on to get bigger and bigger. But yeah, that was a nice unsolicited connection that you had been aware of. And I'll have to say it's pretty rare for me. So it was cool that that you brought it up, and I was glad to be able to kind of catch up with you about that and the influence of an environment over music, which is this is a show about podcasting, but I'm such a big music fan, having moved to Ibiza, and the fact that you're in London, I'm spending so much time there now. I really have been able to hear the different music styles or what people appreciate in London versus Miami, but definitely here in Spain. There's some overlap, but it's definitely an interesting. Going to a place like what was it, Fold in the UK, in London. That I was like, okay, the music's different here, but it's a cool scene. I was wondering, how long have you been pursuing a creative career? What was your first, if you had one, like I'm creative moment, and I don't want to do kind of a conventional Rat Pack or kind of the game of life sort of career? And maybe you have that, and this is just all your side creative hustle. But I'm just curious, yeah, like when did you kind of have that maybe Oprah style aha moment that you're like, no, this is the route I want to go, the more adventurous, take chances, creative life?
I don't think there was one thing specifically that I could point out that I said, "Oh, this changed my direction." I mean, as a kid, you start going into your interests, what you like. So I always knew I had different things I was interested in. So I thought, oh, it would be great to try to find a way to make this into a career. And I still, like everyone who kind of works for themselves, we all still struggle to try and do that, or unless you're whatever big name you want to throw in. So sometimes I still ask that question, how can you make that work? But I think you just roll with it. Don't think about it too much. Obviously, you have to have a plan about what you're trying to do, but yeah, just try to stay true to yourself as much as that phrase has been used. So nothing specific, but yeah, we're just always into music. I think now, obviously, it's a lot easier to work in this field of music than it was 20 years ago or so, or media, period. So, yeah, I haven't always just done music. I've had to, like everyone else, we've had to sometimes pick up things on the side to allow time and to be able to work in this creative field.
Yeah, finding that balance is not easy, I think, for people with aspirations to have their creative expression be kind of the main thing. I'm wondering, what's been the biggest creative block you've ever faced, or how do you work through situations where you're kind of whether it's the demands of kind of the side slash main hustle or whatever. Just curious, yeah, like if you've experienced creative blocks in the past and how you circumvented that.
Still do. I mean, it's a challenge. I mean, you always are concerned about when you're putting your work out, oh, what are people going to think? So that's always a hard one, to hold back certain things because you're not sure if they're ready or if it's good enough. Just letting things go. Now it's a lot easier with just a click of a button, whereas previous times you had to really put in the effort and time to be able to get a product out and get it in or let people see it. So it's definitely a little bit easier, but still, I think there's so much out there. How do you try to let your work speak for itself or let it be different? Or yeah, so I guess those few things are a challenge still that yeah, still deal with.
I'm sure. Yeah. Um, I appreciate you sharing about that. I wanted to kind of turn our attention to inspirations. So, how did your podcast inspirations take shape? How long was it idea before it became a reality? I'd just love to know kind of the inception of it all and how you launched it, how you got it off the ground.
Well, in the beginning, I had, because I've also worked as a writer over the years too. So I had audio from interviews of different people that I'd spoken with. Some of them were published, some of them weren't published. And I've loved this, the way podcasts have grown, just being able to listen to someone and hear directly from the voice of the person you're speaking with. Sometimes as a writer, you read something, not to take away from any journalist, but maybe they'll put their own voice or they'll put their own spin, and you won't be able to directly hear from the person that you're speaking with what their words are.
Hmm.
So I thought, oh, it would be good to try to use some of this audio that I have. So initially, like the first few that I had were just old audio sitting around. So I reached out to the people that I had spoken with and said, oh, is it okay to use this? Even though it wasn't essentially done for this context, they said, yeah, great. So maybe added a few things in, and it was really just from there. I mean, I'm not a person that is doing this every day or every week. There isn't really much of a schedule. It's kind of just if there's someone that I think is interesting and they're open to it, then I'll do it just to be able to try and share something. And that's really been the process of it so far. Just really being loose. I think that's the main thing, and trying to let people speak and share from their experiences.
It sounds like you're not as troubled by overthinking things. Am I wrong about that?
I think it's easy to say, not as much easy to practice. Maybe something I'm working on.
Okay. I like your attitude, at least the way it's coming off. But yeah, it troubles a lot of creatives too. Like, you know,
Yeah, not
to
as
hit that
fun.
publish button is maybe one of the hardest things especially for perfectionists, you know? So I was going to ask you, what have you learned? If you would, this may be a tough, bigger picture question, but what have you learned about the human experience from interviewing people from around the world?
Just well, for myself, it's first thing is to listen, which
Mm.
has helped me in this podcasting or interviewing things. Sometimes even I'm paying attention to it now, trying to not speak over you while you're asking questions.
I like it.
Yeah, giving room to the person you're speaking with to allow them to speak, because sometimes the interviewer will just continue on and they'll totally kill a moment where the person you're speaking with was just trying to get their words together or find time to express themselves. So I think that's one of the main things that I've taken away.
I did some writing myself, and I think it kind of went hand in hand um, with the audio. I mean, I was kind of always working in radio, and it kind of led to podcasting when it blew up. But yeah, I think that it's a special skill. I think writing, and especially in writing, yeah, your questions are important, but it's really just to be able to like sit back and be quiet. I mean, this is a lesson to anybody, whether they're in our accelerated program or not. Like to be able to hold back the ums and the yes and the uh-huh, like all that so you can get clean audio on your guest. I mean, not like this. We use Riverside for this show, so it records our audio separately. Not everybody uses programs that do that, but I think there's a lot of like small technical things that you could kick yourself for later. That I think by listening to this, hopefully it's beneficial to those, kind of just starting out. But I think listening is So underrated. That was your answer, the first answer, and I think that's super powerful to be able to share with folks who might be listening to this and thinking about podcasting. But I was wondering, are there any skills that translate between music, DJing, playing music, and podcasting?
What I would say, being curious. I mean, music, obviously, as a DJ, you have different angles that you can go to, but one of the main things that got me into DJing and still keeps me interested in it is curiosity of hearing different sounds and learning different things and picking up a record from here and reading the notes or exploring something, finding out something you didn't know before. And similar in podcasting, when you're speaking with someone, you choose your subject, or it's a friend who you're always interested in and you didn't really know all their story. So I think this idea of curiosity is important for in anything that we do because it opens you up.
I love that. That's strong answer. I'm wondering, just this is my just personal, let me geek out for a moment, fanboy stuff, but who's the biggest DJ you've met in your work? Did you think about asking them to come on Inspirations? I'm just curious, kind of who you've kind of run in with, whether you were in the same room randomly or playing at the same venue. I'm just curious.
Not yet. I haven't really reached out in a sense. Most of the people that I've spoken to on the podcast have been people that I know, that are friends. If there was a DJ, if I was homies with Tiesto, I don't know if that could be another thing, but we haven't hung out yet. But yeah, so far it's really just been people that I feel I have a connection with that can relate on a certain level that I feel people would find interest from. So hasn't been anyone that I'd reached out to yet in this bit to answer your question.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, because I think like in the beginning of my podcast journey, I think there was one part of me was like, oh, this gives me the opportunity to meet and or have a conversation with someone that I maybe idolize or respect from afar. You never know how those connections can be made, but it sounds like from your perspective, and forgive for any of the young folks listening at home, you're not a star fucker. You're
Thank you.
That's a compliment. So I'm glad you took it that way. Uh, no shame on those who, get big guests and ask, make the request for guests who have a bigger following, etc. But I think that genuine aspect is actually something that really thrives. Authenticity is really important in podcasting, and I don't think the most famous people always kind of win at this game. Not even a win or lose situation, zero sum game. I think it's just, yeah, what your these stories and these conversations that you want to have with folks, that connection sounds important to you. So I think that's really valuable. Another valuable takeaway from this conversation. Now I have another big question for you. I don't know if there was something that might have been influenced by going to the podcast show in London or not, but I'm wondering, what's one of the bigger trends or any trends that you're kind of taking in or noticing in terms of like where podcasting is going? Is there anything that you have noticed that you're like, oh, it seems like it's going in this direction, or do you pay attention to any of that?
Not up on all the new trends. I see obviously there's a lot of video also coming out where people are filming their interviews, which is cool in a certain context. That's probably been going on for a while anyway, but definitely I remember seeing that quite a bit at the podcast show, talking, and especially now, more shorts, more reels, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So that's been going on. I'm more interested in the audio side. Maybe it's a little more old school, just putting the phone down because I've always had a love for just regular radio, terrestrial radio
Oh yeah.
in that sense, which maybe is not around as much, or definitely the younger generation isn't connected to. And feel podcasting in a way allows this connection that or can make this connection to the current generation, or just people overall, because you just pop your phone down and you don't have to look at anything. Just sit outside and listen to an interview or wherever you are. So I prefer the audio side over the video. So trends related to audio, I don't know. I hope it continues to grow, and hope more people who don't listen to podcasts do. But I feel a lot of people listen to podcasts. So
It's true. Just growing. At least in America, I know the stat is as of last year, it passed 50% of all Americans listened to a podcast in the last month. I mean, it's just, I quote that so many times because it's like once you get over the halfway mark, it's like, okay, this is like a pervasive zeitgeist situation. So I asked this question of all my guests, and I want to ask you the same. What's your next chapter? It's the name of the show. Just curious, what's next for you as you keep building here?
podcasting, I mean, I'll just keep on hopefully meeting people that are interesting enough that I feel that whatever they have to share would be interesting to share with other people, and that they'd be open to it. So yeah, just meeting more cool people that feel that they would be interested in saying, oh, trying not to say that. and and music, just keep going. I mean, there's so much music out there. Staying in touch with it is a job in itself.
It is.
Yeah, I don't have any. I didn't think about the answer to this question before, so I don't have any super interesting projects that I can relate to. However, there was this one project that I wanted to work on, but I haven't been able to find a way to work on it yet. So I'll just mention it briefly. I was interested. I took a trip to Japan maybe last year, and I went to a baseball game over there, and I really enjoyed baseball, like watching it there and getting the experience. I wanted to. This is not a subject that hasn't been looked at before, but wanted to find a way to look at the ways to connect the game over there to the game here, and look at it through the through how cultures connect. So maybe there'll be a way I can find a direction for that.
Oh, very interesting. It's ironic. When I started working at XM Radio, ultimately Sirius XM Radio in Washington D.C., where I grew up. It was my first full time job in radio. Was covering baseball um, for the MLB home plate channel or whatever it's called now. I'm not sure, but man, I lived, ate, slept baseball for at least a year, and I really did fall in love with the game. There's so much nuance to it. It's really special, and the Japanese love their base. I mean, there's one of the best players in the game is Japanese right now. So that's really interesting. It's cool to get like a little bit of a left field answer on that one. Um, and if there's anything, I don't know listeners to this show, if how many people are in London, et cetera, but if any shows that are coming up, I know you had been playing Soho and Soho House in London. Is there any gigs that you would want to shout out here, or anything in general you want to mention?
Yeah, I do a radio show on Voices Radio. That's like every month or two. But
Hmm.
people can't go to that. Yeah, I DJ around town at some of the vinyl quote unquote bars as well.
Nice.
Yeah, if anyone's in town this Thursday, I'll be at Brilliant Corners. That's in Dalston area. Um, Doing this other spot called Barlina and Shoreditch coming up this weekend. So yeah, DJ. I mean, just take a look at my Instagram. I'm not a heavy sharer of all sorts of things on there, but yeah, when I do some gigs, I'll post it up on there in the stories. So that's at Bernard BernardSire Sire on Instagram. And yeah, I mean, it's festival season here in London about to come up. I haven't been here for that many summers, but they go in pretty hard on the festivals. So I'm sure anyone who's out here knows that. So that's always fun. I was at Cross the Tracks in Brixton like a week or
Nice.
two ago. So yeah, I saw some really good stuff there, and yeah, a lot coming up here. So
Yeah, the summers are so busy in London. You have such a long, dreary winter that, just like New York, I guess you could say, they appreciate their summers so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pleasure I'm so glad we met, and I'm glad we could, have a follow-up conversation via interview here on your next chapter. Bernard Sire, really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Jeremiah. Before we go, could I turn the tables and just ask you a question?
Please go for it.
Yeah, no, I was just curious about what you think is going on in the podcast world, new trends, and anything that you want to share. What's next for you? Because next chapter, you guys have done a really good job in this world and have a lot of interesting shows.
Oh, that's very kind of you to ask. Yeah, I mean, I think the go-to answer is the one that you gave in terms of video, but to dig a little deeper, maybe deeper in the crates for a podcast kind of trend answer, I think I would go the route of what every agent that we've spoken to and most networks around the concept of well, not a concept, but the kind of cadence of an always on weekly podcast. It's something that, when I worked at TuneIn prior to starting the company, July 2018, I remember our sales team in LA was always like, we need like 9 months to get advertising for a show, like to find a sponsor and to sign the deal and the whole nine. So because of that, we have produced a couple shows that are essentially always on. The 500 being one of them, where we've done it for 6.5 years, never missed a week, and that is really the trend because it doesn't happen overnight in terms of finding the right brand unless you're super famous to get on board with a podcast. So I think like having this mentality of we're going to deliver the goods, and it can be bi-weekly, it can be every other week, but we're going to deliver and publish an episode, every week or every other week for the foreseeable future. Give me 52 weeks of content, and there's a chance that not only will the audience adopt it and say, this is a part of my weekly listening behavior, but it also means that with that audience growth, that you're possibly going to be able to find a good sponsor that fits and wants to be with you in the long term. So, I mean, it's easier said than done. There's some people that we have a show for kids that's a 10-minute news show. Even the 10 minutes takes a lot of work. It's amazing how some people kind of walk into podcasting and they're like, oh, this is easy, no problem, and realize how hard it is. And then other people are like, oh, this is the hardest thing ever. I can never get started. I think that's a little too far in the opposite direction. But I think achieving kind of, I think there's a couple of shows that we're hoping to get off the ground that are kind of committing to about 26 episodes, like half a year. Like if you can kind of approach your podcast, if you're about to launch, and really think about, all right, how do we make this sustainable? How do we do it cheaply? How do we make it high quality? And then how do we do it every week forever? Easier said than done, to quote you from earlier. But that's a trend that maybe isn't brand new, but I feel like no agent or network really wants to greenlight a show that's a mini series unless you got like the biggest Hollywood star that is going to promote the hell out of it and you're going to get a ton of attention for it. So, I don't want to make the wall too high for people to kind of feel like they can get off the ground here, because I think we have solutions for how to do that. But I just don't. I don't think any like guaranteed funding is coming for any new show unless you got star power or you're willing to kind of commit and like go all in. So a very long-winded answer, but I just wanted to give you all the details in terms of where my head's at about it. But cool. Well, just to wrap it up, if you're interested in learning more about the Next Chapter Accelerator program, please go to nextchapterpodcast.com/contact and we'll reach out. Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Next Chapter. I'm your host, JT. Our executive producer is Nick Kastner, and this will be edited by Justin Cortese. We drop episodes bi-weekly. Please follow the show, and thanks for listening. Thanks, Bernard.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Shout out to you. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Appreciate you and your time.